This is a response to Lambdog, the original OG, older than 5-year-old YouTube channel or something like that. Starts out his videos asking for a video a week from old school YouTubers. I got a email the other day from YouTube congratulating me that my YouTube channel sorry. Damn. Anyway, I got an email from YouTube congratulating me that my YouTube channel was officially 2 years old. I'm like, well, I started it in 2011, so 2011 minus 2024. You know, I don't want to do the math on that, but this, you know, okay, 2 years. Anyway, this video is called The Intellectual Sieve, and in your video, you're like, yeah, there's not really much we could do to prepare. I take the opposite camp, man. And it's because of this thing I call the intellectual sieve. No situation stays bad for forever. I don't care how bad the situation is. You know, if the whole town gets destroyed, eventually people are like, you know, well, we got to put up some huts and find some food. And there's like a hunter-gatherer tribe there. What does the future look like after that? Fuck, I don't know. But like, even if nukes fell in every major city in America, assuming that nuclear winter is a real thing or isn't a real thing, whichever side of the camp you fall down on, I personally don't think it's a real thing. We can go into the evidence for that. I have a video nobody watched on that, but to sum it up, we shot off a hell of a lot of nukes, and none of them affected the temperature of the planet in any way whatsoever. And the Russians don't act like nuclear winter is a real thing at all. So I think we have this thing in the US where there's a group think and a science, and some of it is bullshit to control us. Anyway, but assuming that nuclear winter is not a real thing, every major city in the US gets nuked. How many years is it before shit is at a new normal? I would put it to you, it's like 2 to 5 years, something like that. Mad Max don't last forever. And this is simply because people are not that committed to the fucking, you know, purge or the fight or whatever you want to put it as. People get tired of raiding and marauding. Even the Vikings got tired of raiding and marauding. It took them a while, I'll give them that, but... And the intellectual sieve is, are you smart enough and prepared enough to be able to just sit that shit out? You know, who is better off? The guy sitting back eating off his canned goods and prepared meals and whatever and reading a book for 2 or 3 years, or the people out there having to fucking go house to house raiding and slowly getting killed? It's gonna be an intellectual sieve of, were you smart enough to prepare, or are you smart enough to figure out how to live with people now? It's literally going to sift the wheat from the chaff, and this is the reason to prepare in my mind. And you know, you can see this anytime there's a natural disaster. Even that bullshit hurricane stuff going on in the southeast right now. It'll get better again. It always does. The world continues to spin on. Kids have to go to school. You need food and shelter. You'll figure it out. You know, does the kids' school look like Grandpa reading from the Book of Ages and telling them about the old times and preparing them to go be buffalo hunters or something like that? Or does it look like a new public school being built? I don't fucking know. It doesn't really matter. It's gonna be whatever it is. And if you think there's a nuclear winter coming after the nukes fall, maybe go eat a bullet, I guess. I really don't know what to tell you about that. I severely question how much we're being lied to about that shit when our leaders have put our money into building bunkers for the elite, and the Russians try to preserve their entire society because they know there's going to be a fight after the nuclear war. Maybe the Russians are stupid, but history tells me Russians aren't very stupid. They think different than us, and it's a little bit of a different thing. And I guess when it comes to prepping for the apocalypse, I'm kind of a Russian more than I am an American. I'd rather sit it out for a few years and maintain my ability to fight than, pretend there's a nuclear winter and preserve my elite and kill off all the plebs. But in any case, I kind of figure that my neighbors aren't going to be that big of an issue. They'll either be smart enough that they're an asset to me, and that's cool, or they're going to be such a fucking danger and a hindrance that they wind up dead. And just to put it out there, I don't like my fucking neighbors. I don't like my community. Everyone here's a fucking idiot. Some of them are pretty obviously preppers. You can pick out the preppers in my community because they have a vintage car or pickup truck in their driveway. And they didn't 5 years ago, 10 years ago. In the aftermath of COVID, the amount of 67 to 70 Ford and Chevy pickups that have been, fully restored and placed in the driveways of my neighbors is kind of fucking crazy. It's not one or two, it's half the damn neighborhood. And I think that's because there's quite a few preppers here. And I guess that gives me some hope. Maybe somebody will be left. If it's not, then you read your book, eat your canned goods, help your grandma, go about your life until you can't anymore. I don't think there's any future in being a Mad Max marauder. I don't think there's any future in doing any one of 100 things that people think they're going to do in the end of the world. They'll just ensure you can wait it out a while. No matter what, whether it's 1 month or 2 years, every month that you can let go by where you don't have to go out and be a Mad Max raider increases your odds of survival dramatically as a Mad Max raider. At the start, there's going to be a whole bunch of idiots dying because of the intellectual sieve. Things get calmer over time. That's just kind of the nature of things. And I would say that's the primary reason I prepare. And that's why I prepare the way I do. Instead of, being a civilian Green Beret with, 10,000 guns. I have a bunch of canned food. I have, a solar charger and some books and a reliable car, and there's not really much more you can do than that. Do I have guns? Yes. Do I think that they're going to be needed? No. Most of this is, the Old West was a pretty frickin' shitty situation, and there weren't gunfights every day. Were there people dying every day, and were there occasionally gunfights? Yeah. But in most of the small towns or places like that across America, life continued on. And as much as people nowadays are reliant on their electricity and reliant on their internet and all that shit, the intellectual sieve will ensure that those people either adapt or they will die. And to be honest, I think this generation needs a little bit of that. We've gotten to a point where, we're giving 3-year-olds fucking tablets and iPhones and shit, and then being surprised that they turn out fucking crazy. I don't know how many kids I've seen in recent memory where their parents have gotten them some sort of iPad or something like that when they were very young, and now they can't exist without it. They can't exist without the internet. They can't exist as just a kid. Like, it's sad. And like, they run roughshod over their parents, and like, we're creating a generation of like Eric Cartman from South Park blended with I don't know, a cyborg. Like, half of their brain is on the fucking internet, like you said. And when I grew up, you actually had to know phone numbers. You actually had to know how to get around your town. These haven't been good developments. And part of me hopes the reckoning is a-coming. Maybe that's bad or whatever. I don't know. I'll leave my moral judgment to you, but when I see the 10-year-old with the iPad sitting in the corner, just staring at it, pressing the fucking little things, who can't even look at me and talk and have a conversation, has to have his iPad or he freaks the fuck out. And when you take away his iPad and make him come to the dinner table and actually engage with humans, he's like a fucking psychopath or a robot. It ain't good, man. And we're raising generations of fucking kids that way now. And I think every generation gets worse. You look at what's been happening. The greatest generation raised the boomers, and they were what the boomers are. You could say they're okay, but I fucking hate the boomers because the boomers were complacent and ended up in charge and vote for anything that continues their phony baloney existence. We don't want any pain at all. No, we have to increase the size of the federal government and rack up a $36 trillion debt, and there's no other way around it. Can't possibly cut some spending and get realistic about what we can and can't afford. No. And those idiots raised their kids into Gen X who never grew up, for the most part. And you could say, well, I'm Gen X and I grew up. I have a family and kids and whatever. I know a bunch of people in Gen X who still live with their fucking parents, or heavily rely on their parents, and they're in their 40s or their 50s now. And then those people raised kids, and I don't know what generation that, I guess it would be millennials, which is technically what I'm a part of. And the millennials are like this mixed bag of copies of their parents, crazier than their parents, or even a little bit of that greatest generation shit coming back because they kind of had to with all the wars we've fought. And there's plenty of millennials that are missing fucking arms and legs from Iraq. And most of them, I'd say, are better off than the Gen Xers. And now you have Gen Z and Gen whatever that follow that, and like, those kids that have been raised in the era since the internet took over our world and the iPhone took over our world, and everyone has to have an iPad and everyone gets a trophy and all this bullshit, everything since the millennials. We are set up to have a lot of people die. You know, to quote Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, the world is full of useless eaters. I don't at all sound like a Nazi. But that Nazi motherfucker's somewhat right. You can't have, 7 billion people on the planet and have 5 billion of them on a fucking iPad in a corner playing a video game their whole life. My last relationship, the girl was 19, and it ended because she was a fucking video game addict, amongst other things. She's plugged into the fucking computer all day. It's hard to have a relationship with someone that you never talk to. I try not to judge too harshly on, what people want to do with their time and their life, but I think a good first step to fixing our society would be banning fucking video games and tablets, especially to anyone under the age of like 18. Developing brains shouldn't have a fucking dopamine machine shoved in front of their face. And, I hate saying that because when I was a kid, I didn't get to play video games, and I saw, friends playing GoldenEye or some shit on an N64, and we're like, man, I wish I could play that. But, my mom wouldn't let me. I think that's part of why I'm not as fucked up as my fellow millennials. When I got a game system eventually, I was a senior in high school, and I bought it with myself with my own money from my job. And it was an original Xbox, and at that point there were more advanced systems out, but I hadn't played any of the old games, so I bought an original Xbox and played all of those games I ever wanted, and that took me like 3 or 4 years just to get through that. Once I was done with that, I bought an Xbox 360. Started playing some of the new games that were out, and eventually kind of came to the conclusion that they're really just a fucking waste of time. It's not really entertainment. It perverts your brain. And I think as much as video games do that, that's as much as an instant connection to the internet on a tablet does to a child. I would never allow my children to have phones or tablets. I'd get them a flip phone when they turned like 16 and started driving. Maybe an iPhone. I don't know. I kind of come down on the side of the iPhone because I've had one for a long time, and I know how to be disciplined with it and not just spend all day staring at fucking Instagram and Twitter and being like, I can't wait to see what Hugh Jackman says. Or whoever. But as much as the games are a problem, the social media and the fucking phones are a problem too. I got an iPhone in 2008, which I bought with my own money again. And when I bought it, my friends mocked me and said that I could have bought a really nice laptop for that. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't carry a laptop in my pocket. And you guys look like idiots carrying a laptop case everywhere with you, everywhere you go. Yeah, but you can't write papers on that. I'm like, if I want to write a paper, I have access to about a dozen desktop computers. Why would I need to write a paper on my mobile device? And, who was right on that one? Everybody has a fucking smartphone now. But like the first couple of years that I had that iPhone, I spent entirely too much time on it. And part of that was it had YouTube, it had the internet, It had various things that were fascinating and people get addicted to. And if you're not disciplined with it, it becomes half your fucking brain. And even if you are disciplined with it, it does take over the bullshit. I mean, it auto corrects your typing. It has all the addresses you'll ever need and maps in it and all of your phone numbers in it. We've lost something in this endeavor for more and more technology. And it's created this situation where the intellectual sieve, if the world ever ends, is going to be pretty harsh. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that adjust and make it. You know, maybe 50%. And that's being pretty generous. And I would put it to you, 2 to 5 years after whatever the emergency is, we probably have cell service again and the phones start working again. And then we're kind of right back where we were probably. You know, not to get biblical on you, but like, in the end of days, there's the mark of the beast. What if the mark of the beast is your fucking cell phone? It seems fucking satanic. What really gets to me about like the iPhone is, if you've ever taken psychedelics, take psychedelics and look at an iPhone. It's trippy, man. It's almost like it was designed to be like that. And I think the psychedelics are unveiling like the unseen realm to you. And this is why that phone is so addictive and so much a part of your brain and whatever, is it was designed to tap into these like dopamine centers in your brain, and you can just tell when you're on psychedelics. Not to mention the guy that designed the fucking things. What's his name? The head of Apple back in the day. I'll think of his name later. He was big into psychedelics, and I think he made the thing to be fun to look at when you're fucking on LSD. And in addition to all the stuff I talked about in the last video about the death of the Republic and whatever, all of this shit is new stuff that our species is dealing with as a planet that I don't know how it ends. But it's creating a generation of young people that can't inherit the keys to the kingdom. You know, how are you going to run a country or whatever when all you can do is sit on the iPad in the corner and play Minecraft? And that's problem number 121 on our glitch list today. You know? I think people like that are going to have a very hard time adjusting to a world without electricity. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. And the intellectual sieve is coming. Like, the bell keeps tolling that something bad is coming. And for a lot of people, I think COVID woke them up to that. And if it didn't, then maybe those people are the people that shouldn't survive. Maybe I'm just a little bit of a Nazi at heart. I want to see this sieve happen. And you know, to go back to the Roman Republic and Empire failing, when the Roman Empire collapsed, the people that were the best off were the extremely wealthy. This is where I would hope that any intellectual sieve that we have dramatically affects all of the fucking pointless rich people we have in this country. But looking at the past, the richer you are, the more insulated you are from this shit. The people that did well when the Roman Empire collapsed were people that owned quite a bit of land out in the country and hadn't even been taking part in any of the shit that led to the fall of the empire. You know, they were still worshiping pagan gods because they were so outside of the fucking circle of shit happening in the empire. I wish I had a sieve right now to shake at the screen and be like, she's a coming. That's how I feel. Like, I think all of these problems I'm talking about have affected us dramatically and haven't affected our adversaries hardly at all. Like, China has a lot of our same problems, but like Russia, for example, you know, their people don't have the time to be addicted to a fucking iPhone or a video game. Unless I completely misunderstand them. I guess there are a lot of Russian gamers, but I keep thinking of it as like the start of Major Pain or Apocalypse Now, where like, I'm getting weaker in this hotel room, and Charlie's out there squatting in the bush getting stronger. You know, that's our situation right now. We're all sitting in a cushy hotel room getting softer while our enemy is squatting in a fucking jungle eating rice out of a bowl, carrying a rifle. How are they going to survive the intellectual sieve? You know? Does this thing make us to where we're no longer a world power and the new world order is fucking China? I kind of think that's why China's not going to go to war with the US and we're not going to go to war over Taiwan. They're going to keep playing the slow game and get us involved in the Ukraine and the Middle East and hope that that takes us down a peg and continues to take us down a peg until China just runs the world by default. You know? Why would I go to war with the United States when I can just kill her economy? Which we're doing to ourselves. Our fucking interest payment on our debt is bigger than our national defense budget now. Sort of like, you know, being in a boxing match with someone who's actively like snorting crack or some shit. I'll just make sure he doesn't hit me for a while until he passes out after the fucking drugs. There's no need to punch him. He's punching himself. I don't know, I hope this made sense to you. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I do disagree on whether we should prep or not. There's like the list of things where it's an emergency the last 2 years, I think is a lot of things. The list of things that is, well, we're Mad Max Marauders for the next 50 years is slim to none. Basically none. I think even if nukes fell in every major city in America, you wouldn't see that shit. I don't know what would cause Mad Max to happen. People are dumb, panicky animals, yes, but at the same time, they usually have enough sense of self-preservation that they don't just go out there and fucking raid, even when they're starving to death. And you can look at the third world for that. How many third world countries right now have people that are starving to death, watching their kids die, and they're just sitting there watching it because they don't have a choice, basically. I think a lot of the people in the intellectual sieve are that. You know, in the fight or flight game, they're going to do neither because they don't know what to do, so they're just going to sit there and hope the power comes back on. Our country makes me fucking sad. I'll see you guys later.